Hello, church. Thank you for joining me today. We're in this series, Parables, and today we're going to look at salt and light. What does it mean to be salt and light to the world as Christians? Now, I like food, especially well-seasoned food, dishes. Not too salty, just the right amount of seasoning. And that's how it is with God and His Word. But the only way to know what the Word tastes like, as well as what the food tastes like, is to eat it. Psalm 34 verse 8, taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, the joys of those who take refuge in Him. Psalm 119, 103, how sweet your words taste to me. They are sweeter than honey. Now, the ingredients in our Christian life, there's relationships, friendships, fellowship, is the seasoning of the soul. It's how we taste God's character and values in this life. So our job, our number one job, is to give people a taste of Jesus' love. Matthew 5:13, you are the salt of the earth, but what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It will be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. Each of us has our own unique flavor. Everyone is tasty. How is your flavor drawing people to taste and see that the Lord is good? Colossians chapter 4 verses 5 and 6. Live wisely among those who are not believers and make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversations be gracious and attractive, seasoned with salt, so that you will have the right response for everyone. Here's our first principle. How we speak to others is the main way they get a taste of Jesus. Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Jesus goes on to say it's not just how you treat outsiders, but also how you live that matters. What you do with your life to draw people to Jesus. Jesus said, I am the light of the world, and He is. But then He said, I'm leaving. So guess what? You are the light of the world. Our job, our second job, is to shine a light that draws people to Christ. Matthew 5:14 through 16. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Here Jesus is saying, you are the light of the world. You are meant to light the way to Jesus. And how did Jesus say we were going to be the light? Once again, not only words, not only what we do, it's with our deeds. Our deeds. So what gets in the way? What is that basket that hides this little light, right? Here's just a couple that I came up with. Fear and self-centeredness. We're too afraid of failing, and we're too afraid of what it might cost us. Luke chapter 10, verse 25 through 29. One day, an expert in religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question. Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus replied, what does the law of Moses say? How do you read it? The man answered, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Right, Jesus told him. Do this and you will live. The man wanted to justify his actions, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? This expert in the religious law was either trying to trap Jesus or was really looking for an honest answer. Either way, Jesus, in the well-known habit of a Jewish rabbi, turned the question back over to him. He answered a question with a question. Now, this would have been kind of embarrassing because the Jewish, actually it was a Levite, right, attorney, he kind of wanted to trap Jesus, but he got it turned around. But he answered correctly from the Mosaic law. And Jesus knew that no one could keep the law perfectly, especially the love your neighbor part. When the man asked, who is my neighbor? He was probably trying to narrow the field of people that he would be expected to view as his neighbor. It's like, I just want the fewest amount of people to be considered a neighbor. So those are the people I love. This conversation sets up one of Jesus's most well-known and powerful parables. Jesus will take this opportunity to break social and racial barriers and to define what it looks like to love a neighbor. This one story, this one parable, will be revolutionary. In fact, it will challenge God's law that was given to the Jews to keep themselves pure. It will place love of neighbor above the temple law. Jesus is about to blow up the religious world of the Jews. Let's go on, Luke chapter 10, verse 30 to 32. Jesus replied with a story. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along, but when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. In Jewish tradition, a Jew only had to consider a fellow Jew as a neighbor, since all others were unclean. But Jesus, rather than making a Jew the hero of the story, makes him the victim. It's a Jew who is attacked, and it's as if he's saying, how would you feel if you were the one who needed help? A priest walked by. He passed to the other side because as a priest, he can't be near any dead person. Or he would be defiled. He would be considered unclean. He had the law to follow, a duty to perform. But notice, he doesn't even bother to check to see if the guy's alive. He assumes he's dead, and he uses the law to excuse himself from helping. I can't go over there. He's dead. I'll be defiled. Then a Levite, a temple assistant, he walks by. Now, he took a little bit of a risk, and he went over and looked for himself. And then he assumed he was beyond help or even dead. So he also went back to the other side. Both of them chose duty over mercy. Even though in the Jewish hierarchy of the law, the saving of a life trumps temple duty. But they were still under the umbrella. I'm duty bound. Luke chapter 10, 33 through 35. Then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn, where he took care of him. The next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, "Take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here." Jesus makes a Samaritan, the most despised person a Jew could ever encounter, the hero of the story. And he makes the Jew the needy victim. Jesus says, look, even a despised Samaritan will have mercy when it's needed. Notice what caused the Samaritan to overcome any feelings of judgment or dislike. It was compassion, or another way of saying that is mercy. He didn't have to help the man. There was no Good Samaritan law yet. In fact, the Good Samaritan law is named after this very parable. But he interrupted his own life and schedule, took care of the man, put him on his own animal, and walked to the inn. Only servants walked. Masters rode. So the Samaritan was making himself a servant to take care of this man. And then he left an open tab at the inn to pay for the man's food and lodging until he returns. All kinds of incredible things there that we could just unpack. Luke chapter 10, verse 36 and 37. Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by bandits? Jesus asked. The man replied, the one who showed him mercy. Then Jesus said, yes, now go and do the same. Jesus finished the story with the obvious, convicting question. Who is your neighbor? The lawyer can't even bring himself to say the hated Samaritan, even though those were the words that Jesus used. He could only say the one who showed him mercy. Now, it's important and it's impacting that the lawyer says, this Levite says mercy instead of love. The kind of love that we are to show one another in Hebrew is hesed, Hessed. It's the mercy of God, which is faithful, steadfast, loving. Mercy is to give someone what they do not deserve, which is the kind of love we've received from God, and the kind of love He wants us to share with one another. So who is our neighbor? Every person is worthy of our help. Like the priest, we make assumptions about people. We assume they are beyond help, beyond hope, beyond saving. We don't want to be defiled by their particular sin. We're put off, perhaps even repulsed by their sin. I don't want to have any association with that. And it's easy to let our duty, our idea of what it means to be pure for the Lord, be our excuse. I think sometimes we don't help people because we don't want to be guilty by association. Jesus always chose association over assumption. He always checked. So our third principle here, our third job, is to love people better than the world loves them. We love the way Jesus loved us. The deeper meaning of this parable points to Jesus. The Samaritan represents Jesus in this story, who chooses not to be bound by law and is considered a rebel outcast by the Jews, the Samaritan. Jesus is the one who finds each of us in desperate spiritual condition. Broken and needy, we're beat up alongside the road. Jesus said in Mark chapter 10, verse 45, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many." Jesus ends this parable with, "You go and do likewise." Who can you love with mercy today? Who can you give something they may not deserve that you could show mercy to? And what is it you could give? Maybe someone needs your presence just to be in fellowship with you, and you'd rather not. Maybe someone needs an affirming word from you, not even your presence, just an affirming word, and you'd rather not. Maybe someone needs a hug today or a word of thanks. Maybe someone needs a text or a phone call, an email. Be like Jesus and the Good Samaritan. Give someone the gift of mercy today, even if it means crossing to the other side of the street.